Welcome. I'm Doug Morgan, and you're listening to Uncommon Sense, where we hunt for the truth in the topics you're not supposed to talk about, Christianity and politics. And welcome back to our FOMO Friday edition of the podcast. And we bring this to you every Friday, which means that we know you're not listening to propaganda media and you want to know what's going on. So we bring you the stories of the week that you should probably know about. And there's some big ones this week. Huge story coming out. Well, for years, we have heard liberals say that white supremacy is the nation's number one problem. And when you hear blatantly untrue statements like that, you know there is something behind it. I mean, every time I would hear that come out of, President Otto Penn's mouth, I would just shake my head and say, I don't understand what's happening here. I don't understand why he's saying this, but there's something behind it. And now we know what it was. Daily Wire reports this. Zach Jewell says, in the days following the 2017 Charlottesville, Virginia rally, the Southern Poverty Law Center raged against PayPal for essentially becoming the banking system for white nationalism. At the same time, the leftist group was secretly transferring donor cash into the pocket of a white supremacist leader who helped plan the racist event, according to an indictment revealed by the Justice Department on Tuesday. In the days after the August 11th, 2017 rally, which turned into a deadly affair, the SPLC urged PayPal to crack down on accounts linked to so-called hate groups. PayPal, which already had policies in place on preventing racist groups from using its platform to transfer money, took more action after the Unite the Right rally and agreed to cut off payments to 34 more accounts linked to the event. On Tuesday, the SPLC was accused of paying multiple people affiliated with extremist groups more than $3 million between 2014 and 2023 and hiding its activity behind bank accounts that were opened for, quote, a series of fictitious entities. Well, one informant was paid more than $270,000 by the SPLC between 2015 and 2023 and had a major role in planning the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, according to the indictment. The informants, quote, made racist postings under the supervision of the SPLC and helped coordinate transportation to the event for several attendees. The indictment states this and added that the informant attended the rally at the direction of the SPLC, unquote. Well, for years, the legacy media has just uncritically pointed to the Southern Poverty Law Center, or the SPLC, as an authoritative source on extremism, frequently relying on its designations of hate lists in coverage of political and cultural issues, going so far as including Christian groups alongside neo-Nazi organizations and the KKK. On Tuesday, however, as we were just talking about, the Justice Department accused the SPLC of secretly using donor money to pay leaders within white supremacist groups. And the SPLC, which labels organizations like the Alliance Defending Freedom as a hate group, was charged with multiple financial crimes, including money laundering and bank fraud. The charges come years after legacy media outlets have repeatedly cited the SPLC in reporting on conservative organizations and activists. The New York Times, for example, frequently refers to the SPLC experts in articles on conservative figures and movements, including the late Charlie Kirk, whose Turning Point USA was labeled a hate group. And in an article published on the day of Kirk's assassination, the Times wrote that his, quote, rhetoric was long cast as racist, xenophobic, and extreme by groups that study hate speech, including the Southern Poverty Law Center, unquote. The paper's obituary of conservative activist David Horowitz also quoted the SPLC, which labeled him, quote, the godfather of the modern anti-Muslim movement, unquote. Other outlets have similarly relied on SPLC reports and designations. When the conservative grassroots group Moms for Liberty was added to the list in 2023, NPR reported that the SPLC compared the parental rights group to, quote, pro-segregationist parent groups, unquote. NBC News, in its coverage, pointed to the SPLC's claim that the group had a history of, as they called it, harassing community members, advancing anti-LGBTQ plus misinformation, and fighting to scrub diverse and inclusive material from lesson plans, unquote. The SPLC's designation of groups opposed to transgender ideology on kids or that hold to traditional Christian beliefs has received much coverage over the years. One article from NBC cited the SPLC to identify groups like the Allegiance Defending Freedom, the Family Research Council, and the American College of Pediatricians as the core of the anti-gay movement. Similarly, the Washington Post turned to the SPLC to label the group Gays Against Groomers as, quote, an anti-LGBTQ plus hate group, unquote. The groups concerned about Sharia law have also faced criticism from the SPLC. An article from NBC pointed to the SPLC as a source in a report about momentum to ban Sharia law in the United States. It noted that one anti-Sharia group had been labeled a hate group by the SPLC. The Guardian framed the SPLC's 2024 hate list as driven by people critical of diversity, equality, and inclusion initiatives. Reporting in 2017 on the annual hate group list, CNN ran a headline titled, quote, here are all the active hate groups where you live, unquote, providing a hate map that included groups that held traditional Christian beliefs. They later changed the headline to Southern Poverty Law Center's list of hate groups after a complaint, or actually several complaints from conservatives. But this is just a huge story because this has been a grift. This was a group that was targeting conservative and Christian groups and saying they were hate mongers and all this stuff, while under the guise of, oh, we're just fighting racism, while funding racism. This is a huge story, and we just don't have time today to cover it all because we want to cover a lot of different things that happened this week. So I'm going to get more into this on Monday. I really believe this opens up. It should open up the eyes of a lot of people to what really is going on the left here, and it is blatant and it is laid out in front of you, and there is no getting past it. Yeah, let's do more of this on Monday. Well, turning to FBI, they worked with Cuba. Yeah, the FBI worked with Cuba, but in this case, for a good thing. Yeah, the FBI returned a 10-year-old Utah boy to his mother after he was kidnapped and taken to Cuba by his transgender identifying father, and his family feared the child would undergo transgender procedures. This is what the Justice Department announced on Tuesday. Authorities charged 42-year-old Indessa Ethington, who goes by Rose, and 32-year-old Blue, who is Blue Inessa Ethington, with international parental kidnapping after the gender-confused boy was taken to Cuba. The boy has since been safely returned to his mother, and the child, a boy who identifies as a girl, by the way, split time with his divorced parents, who shared custody in Cache County, Utah. The boy was supposed to go on a camping trip to Canada with his father, of course, the man who identifies as a woman, and his partner, Blue, but instead ended up in Cuba, according to the court documents. Family members told authorities they feared the boy's father, Rose, intended to force his son to undergo transgender surgery abroad against the mother's wishes. They feared the boy was transported to Cuba for the gender reassignment surgery prior to puberty. And the two kidnappers were deported from Cuba on Monday, and the child was returned home safe to Utah. FBI Director Kash Patel told the Daily Wire the rescue was another example of the Bureau protecting children. He said, each and every day, this FBI is stepping up to protect kids in America at levels never seen before, identifying and rescuing 6,200 children victims just last year alone. This case is no different. We are proud of our agents, intel analysts, and partners who acted quickly and saved a young child from what could have been a horrific kidnapping. Let it be a message to any criminal actor who would try the same. This FBI will find you, no matter where you try to hide. Well, court documents say the group left Utah on March 28th of this year, telling the boy's mother they were headed to Alberta, Canada. The child later called and said they had arrived, but the group could not be reached afterwards. And on March 29th, the group crossed into British Columbia at the Douglas port of entry, and then flew to Mexico the same day before arriving in Havana, Cuba on April 1st, according to investigators. The search of the pair's residence found a to-do list that included learn Spanish along with travel plans. Yeah, if you're going to Canada, I guess you really need to learn Spanish. It also included an intent to withdraw $10,000 in cash and indications that they plan to empty a bank account, according to the FBI. Recovered notes included instruction from a mental health therapist located in Washington, D.C., including instructions to send the therapist the $10,000 and instructions on gender-affirming medical care for children. On April 13th, a Utah judge granted the boy's mother full custody of the boy and ordered him returned to her. Rose and Blue were located by Cuban authorities on April 16th, according to the Justice Department, and lawyers for the defendants have not been identified. They appeared in court for an arraignment in Virginia and will be transferred to Utah for further proceedings. So, that's good news, right? Trump administration, FBI in this case, working with Cuba to get this boy back unharmed. Unfortunately, and I've said this before, I will be critical of the Trump administration when I don't believe they're doing right. I will give them credit where I think credit is due, but it's not beyond me to be critical when I think they're not doing something correct. And I have done this before, and I will now do it again. The Trump administration on Thursday moved to reclassify state-licensed medical marijuana, easing research restrictions on the substance and making the most significant shift in federal drug policy in decades. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed an order reclassifying FDA-approved products containing marijuana as a Schedule III drug, placing them alongside prescription medications. The administration also announced an expedited hearing on June 29th to consider the formal reclassification of cannabis. Quote, these actions will enable more targeted, rigorous research into marijuana safety and advocacy, expanding patients' access to treatments, and empowering doctors to make better informed healthcare decisions, unquote. That's according to Blanche. Now, since 1970, marijuana has remained a Schedule 1, the most restrictive category, alongside substances like heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. Scheduling of a drug is based upon the substance's medical use, potential for abuse, and safety or dependence liability. That's according to the FDA, or the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, sorry. Under the Controlled Substance Act, Schedule 3 drugs are defined as substances with a moderate to low potential of physical or psychological dependence, and the DEA considers Schedule 1 drugs to have no currently accepted medical use and high potential for abuse. The Trump administration's move does not legalize marijuana for medical or recreational use under the federal law, but it allows cannabis companies to deduct standard expenses like rent and payroll for the first time. This according to CNBC. Quote, today's order is reflective of the Department of Justice's continued dedication to common sense policies and the prioritization of the safety and well-being of all Americans, according to Blanche. Now, I don't agree with that. I mean, marijuana is, as we just went over here just recently in a podcast, marijuana is addictive. Marijuana does have some serious side effects, psychological in particular. But in December of 2025, Trump first signed an executive order directing federal agencies to increase marijuana and CBD research. And again, some of that research has come back showing how dangerous it is. Over the weekend, Trump voiced frustration with the pace of the rescheduling process while signing another directive easing restrictions on psychedelics alongside podcast host Joe Rogan. Quote, you're going to get the rescheduling done, right? Please? Will you get the rescheduling done, please? And Trump said to White House staff in the Oval Office, Joe, they're slowly walking me on rescheduling, okay? You're going to get it done. 24 states, along with Washington, D.C., have legalized recreational marijuana use, according to the Associated Press. About 40 states have medical marijuana programs, and 8 others permit low THC cannabis or CBD oil for medical purposes. Only Idaho and Kansas maintain a full ban on marijuana. In November of 2024, voters in Nebraska approved a ballot initiative to legalize marijuana. Ballot measures to legalize recreational marijuana failed in Florida, North Dakota, and South Dakota. So yeah, not something that I'm real happy about. Not crazy about what's going on there, but we'll just keep an eye on it and just know that this is going to cause problems. We already have more people regularly using marijuana than alcohol in this country, and it is definitely something that's addictive. It's definitely something that is causing psychological problems, and now we're just making it easier to do that. So not a good thing. But what is a good thing, you might recognize the name Elizabeth Smart. Do you? Yeah, she's now 38 and has moved on to the next phase of her life with a strong new hobby, bodybuilding. Yeah, you probably recognize her as the former kidnapping victim who became an advocate for child safety, and an NBC News correspondent said she never expected this would happen. Said, quote, when I posted the pictures of my story of me standing on a stage in a bikini, it probably shocked many of you. And I understand the shock, because had you asked me if I would ever compete in a bodybuilding show a couple of years ago, I would have said, absolutely not. Never in 100 years. This is what she wrote in the caption of an Instagram post that she shared on Wednesday. This message was accompanied by a photo of her competing at the Wasatch Warrior competition in Salt Lake City on Saturday. And she took home first place in the fit model division, which is a category for entry-level female bodybuilders. Quote, "This is actually the fourth competition I've done, but I was too afraid to post it before," is what Smart revealed. And she said, "Worried that I would be judged, not taken seriously, somehow perceived as less than, or now unworthy to continue work as an advocate for all survivors." And then this past weekend, it struck me how eerily familiar these feelings and thoughts are for too many survivors, unquote. Well, as for her reasons, Smart wrote that she didn't want to, quote, "reach the end of my life and look back and feel regret for only living a half life, not going after all the things I want to do and try." Also said, this was a big change for me. She said it was hard. It pushed me, challenged me not to give up. "I am so proud of myself for doing this," she said. I am so proud of my body, and I want to celebrate it," she wrote. "My body has carried me through every worst day, every hellish, grueling experience. It's created and nurtured 3 beautiful children. My body has risen to every single challenge life has presented it with and carry me through, so I refused to be ashamed of it." Smart was taken from her Salt Lake home in 2002 when she was 14 years old. She was discovered by police 9 months later. And Smart had been kidnapped from her bedroom at knife point by Brian David Mitchell and his wife, Wanda Barzy. Smart was raped daily by Mitchell as he hid her at campsites around Utah. Mitchell was convicted and is serving a life sentence, while Barzy was released, actually, in 2018. She was arrested again last year, however, after violating conditions of her sex offender status. In the aftermath of the crime, Smart became an advocate for other victims of sexual assault by creating the Elizabeth Smart Foundation, and she's been married since 2012 and has 3 children. If you want to see more on her ordeal, there is a Netflix documentary about her ordeal called "Kidnapped Elizabeth Smart." Well, it's been a few weeks since we've had any celebrity news. I know that some of you have been wanting to have more celebrity news within the podcast and within FOMO Friday, and I've obliged in that way, even though I'm not a celebrity guy. I try to put something in there, but it's been a couple weeks since I've been able to do so. So much stuff has been going on, but we do have some news this week, and this comes with the unfortunate news of a death. Police are investigating claims that cyberbullying may have contributed to the death by suicide of reality star Daryl Sheets, who was best known for starring in the popular A&E series Storage Wars. You might remember him. Law enforcement told Page 6 that they are aware of these cyberbullying accusations, and that is a part of the active investigation. Fans began circulating screenshots from a community Facebook page that Sheets was a member of, which detailed the alleged bullying. Quote, "My apologies to all people in Lake Havasu. My identity has been stolen, and it is not me." This came from a post Sheets shared in January. The reality star named 2 people who he claimed were attacking me with hundreds of negative posts on people and their businesses. Sheets described the 2 individuals as very sick people. He said, quote, "I banned him from being in my shop because of what him and the other person do to people." This is what he wrote, adding that he contacted the FBI about filing stalking, harassment, and stolen identity charges. Another Facebook post shared in March made similar accusations about these same individuals. Quote, "I'm extremely sorry and sick over this. These people have ruined me," Sheets wrote. "People are showing up to my work and wanting to harm me. The police are aware of this." And he next said, "If something happens to me, it was them. Fans were heartbroken by the announcement that the 67-year-old star had died in an apparent suicide. According to a press release from the Lake Havasu City Police Department, Sheets was found around 2 a.m. local time on Wednesday, April 22nd, after officers responded to a reported deceased individual. Quote, upon arrival, officers located a male subject who suffered from what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The release said that the male was pronounced dead on the scene, and the Lake Havasu Police Department Criminal Investigations Unit was notified and responded to the scene to assume the investigation. Storage Wars premiered on A&E in 2010 and just debuted its 17th season in February, actually. The reality show depicts real-life buyers who bid on the contents of abandoned storage units. Drove up the price of storage units, by the way, just speaking from experience. During his time on the show, Sheets earned the nickname The Gambler for frequently bidding high on units that could be worth nothing. And Sheets retired from Storage Wars in 2023 and opened an antique shop in Arizona called Havasu Show Me Your Junk. Well, a spokesperson for A&E says in a statement, we are saddened by the passing of a beloved member of our Storage Wars family, Daryl the Gambler Sheets. Our thoughts are with the family and loved ones during this difficult time. His longtime co-star, Brandy Passanti, shared in an Instagram post full of video memories that she, quote, at a loss for words following Sheets' ultimate death. So, we'll see what happens with that investigation. Obviously, some not so good things happening there. Well, let's wrap this up with a little bit on the lighter note, and maybe you could even call it a creepier note. I don't know. Well, it comes from Prego. Yeah, you know the pasta sauce company. Well, Prego has a new marketing strategy that involves customers recording their dinner conversations using a small device they place on the table. Yeah. The Campbell's own company, Campbell's owns Prego, by the way, announced the debut of its Connection Keeper on Monday. This pasta lid shaped device is meant to serve as as they put it, simple, screen-free way to capture the real conversations that happen around the dinner table, unquote. Yeah, you just press a button. They say families can record meaningful moments and relive them later without phones, screens, or distractions getting in the way. I mean, this is what the promotional web site says. Just sit down with your loved ones, place the Connection Keeper on the dinner table and press to record. No setup needed. It goes on, noting that the device has no Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or AI features. It's meant to help families disconnect. PR rep for Prego says it's a joint effort with the national nonprofit StoryCorps. Quote, everything now is AI, and everyone has their phones on the table. This is what Elise Henkin said, who is the marketing director of StoryCorps Studios and brand partnerships. And she said it interrupts the conversation and the flow. We wanted to get rid of that and go back to the basics and have everyone talking to each other. This happens after these fascinating dinner time conversations are captured. You might be wondering what happens to these things. Well, beginning May 4th, users can easily and safely upload recorded content to an online portal set up by StoryCorps to be stored for future listening. And you may be asking, then what? Well, as Prego notes, the recordings are designed to help families preserve the authentic sounds of time spent together, creating a personal archive to revisit the years to come. Families will have an option to preserve their recordings private within the StoryCorps archive or share them publicly as part of a special Prego collection. There's also a chance that shared recordings could wind up preserved forever. As StoryCorps says in its press release announcing this promo, they are known to preserve the recordings in their archives at the American Folklife, I guess, Center at the Library of Congress. The largest single collection of human voices ever gathered, by the way. And the Collection Keeper bundle will be available for $20 beginning April 27th. So I guess if you want your pasta to be secretly spying on you, this is a great way to do it. If you want to drop $20 on that. I don't know. That just doesn't seem like something I'd be interested in. But, maybe some are. We'll see. We'll see what happens to it. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Of course, you can always do that at uncommonsensepodcast.com. Thank you very much for listening.
This podcast is a production of Organite Communications.